Electronic markets are chaotic. Buyers and sellers interact rapidly, placing orders, canceling orders, and replacing orders in a desperate bid to stay ahead of the market and get the best price possible for their trade. Market participants come in many forms. Retail traders may place trades with patience and a degree of nervousness, which sometimes turns into indignation. Systematic strategies consume hordes of market data and attempt to determine price movements. On top of this, market makers take both sides of the book and attempt to bring some semblance of liquidity and normalcy to the ensuing stampede. Centralized electronic markets have now existed for decades. They benefited from years of refinement and have become stalwart in their robustness. Though they trade some of the most liquid and sought-after products in the world, we rarely think of major equities electronic markets like Nasdaq or the NYSE as inadequate and unable to keep up. This is where we come to decentralized exchanges, DEXs, specifically order book DEXs. At a high level, these are supposed to operate akin to traditional exchanges. Unlike a centralized exchange, a DEX, by virtue of being on a blockchain, must adhere to the many constraints and limitations of the chosen protocol, for which there are many. The computational capacity of the protocol is shared with every on-chain program or smart contract you could possibly imagine. You might think the order you're about to submit to the DEX is the most important thing since the discovery of the Higgs boson, but no one's going to open up a fast lane for you anytime soon. That blockchain is being shared. Nodes on the network are dealing with everything from folks paying for things online, to little Larry, whose high school project is to deploy his own NFT. To compound this issue, protocols typically deal with transactions sequentially. In essence, if the network is busy, transactions are going to take even longer. Sounds challenging? Sure, but here's where Laminar comes into play. What is Laminarflow? Let's go on a slight tangent and explain why we call our DEX laminar. In fluid dynamics, laminar flow occurs when the particles of a fluid travel in smooth paths together, without any disturbance or lateral mixing. Think of it this way: particles can travel together and past one another where they don't affect other particles in other pathways. Hold this thought as it'll all make sense shortly. What is laminar? Back to blockchains. The order in which transactions are executed is key. Hence why so many blockchains operate by applying transactions in sequence, one at a time. Carrying out all transactions in sequence without any concurrency ensures the integrity of the blockchain. The drawback of this is that handling transactions in sequence is slow, and if your overall transaction throughput is low, then on-chain programs which require substantial transaction throughput, like an on-chain DEX, will suffer. With laminar flow, if particles don't interact with each other, then they can travel in tandem. Similarly, if transactions don't interact with each other, they can be executed in tandem. Enter Aptos. Aptos uses BlockSTM, a parallel execution engine, for smart contracts. At a high level, this technology allows transactions to be executed and validated on multiple threads at once via a mechanism which checks dependencies between them. In a simple sense, if two or more transactions don't affect each other, they can be applied in parallel. If we were to consider typical transactions that an exchange or DEX deals with, a significant portion of these will not overlap. For example, when canceling orders in the limit order book or entering orders at different levels of the order book. As such, BlockSTM is enormously promising for building a resilient DEX.